Hey everybody, Nick Espinosa, your chief security fanatic here. Don't forget to subscribe. And it's Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. Oh, and this week in data breaches, absolutely nuts. We've got Victoria's Secret, Adidas, Coinbase, ConnectWise, Tiffany & Co., and a whole bunch more on deck. It's absolutely nuts. But as always, I want to thank the people that sent me some of these tips, and please keep sending these tips my way. And that would be Barry Field, Chris Fuentes, Kazam Gorski, and Jacqueline Wolf. Thank you very much. And with that, let's dive into our mini segment right out of the gate, simply entitled, If You Just Spent Money on Cybersecurity, You Wouldn't Be Getting Sued, You Wouldn't Be Ruining Your Reputation, and as I sure as heck wouldn't be talking about you right now. And we're going to start with Well Now Urgent Care, formerly 5-Star Urgent Care. Now, this is a network of walk-in urgent cares in New York, Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio. And they just agreed to pay $4.4 million for their April 2023 ransomware attack. So heads up if you've used them before. Moving on, Loan Depot. I remember talking about these guys back in 2024 when they had a data breach of 16.9 million customers. They just agreed to pay $25 million. Now, under the settlement, you can receive a whopping $5.30 up to $70.71, depending on your participation rate. Exact amounts may vary, so go get yourself a Happy Meal at McDonald's, if they're even that cheap anymore. Moving on, Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center. They just agreed to pay $11.5 million to basically put their 2023 cyber attack to bed. So, class members that filed valid claims can receive up to $599, possibly up to $5,000 if you can show extraordinary damages. And so, here we are, Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center. I'm never a fan when hospitals and centers like that get hit. Moving on, Coinbase. I recently just talked about Coinbase. You probably heard the news. So, Coinbase and two of their executives have now been hit with yet another proposed class action lawsuit over the crypto exchange's stock price drop after disclosing a user data breach earlier this month that essentially basically meant that they failed to disclose regulations to the United Kingdom regulator. That's right. We're technically going to the UK, but we're keeping it in the United States because Coinbase investor Bradley Nessler said in a May 22 lawsuit that in a Pennsylvania federal court that the data breach and the alleged broken agreement with the UK's Financial Conduct Authority resulted in a, quote, precipitous decline in the market value of the company's common shares, causing stockholders to suffer significant losses and damages. So we'll see what's happening. But Coinbase, obviously a global provider for cryptocurrency exchange and other currencies as well, on the hot seat. Moving on, ServiceAid. Multiple lawsuits have been filed in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California to assert similar claims against the Santa Clara-based company, including negligence for failing to implement reasonable and appropriate safeguards to ensure confidentiality and integrity availability of data, failure to comply with industry standard security practices, and failure to follow the Federal Trade Commission or FTC guidelines. So we're going to see what happens with ServiceAid, but it ain't looking good for them. Moving on. Laboratory Services Cooperative. Now, apparently they're being sued by Planned Parenthood patients that are taking legal action over the theft of their sensitive data from LSC. They're based out of Seattle, Washington, and here we are. They do diagnostic testing for Planned Parenthoods in 30 states, as well as the District of Columbia, and at least 3 class action lawsuits in the U.S. District for Western District of Washington against LSC over this data breach are now rolling. So Laboratory Services Cooperative also in the hot seat as well. Moving on, let's head down south to Duke Energy. They settled a class action lawsuit over a data breach last year, which exposed personal information to cyber criminals. This is according to court documents for the U.S. District Court of Western North Kakalaka. Now, terms of the settlement were not disclosed in the latest filing, but there are at least 100 class members with a total combined claims of over $5 million, according to the complaint. So I think Duke Industries is going to be paying out some serious bucks. Moving on. Let's talk about the Green Bay Packers, as they say in Wisconsin. A judge dismissed the lawsuit against the Packers, basically due to their failure to act to prevent a data breach related to the Pro Shop website that they had. In other words, if you're a Packers fan and you're going to go buy a jersey or whatever, your information was probably hit. Now, there was a data breach in September and October of last year, and the Packers offered credit monitoring and other services to customers. Brian Garcia sued the team seeking damages. In a one-sentence ruling that was signed this past Wednesday, Judge Tammy Jo Hawk approved an agreement to close the case, and I quote, "The court, having considered plaintiff's stipulation of dismissal with prejudice pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 805.041, orders that the class and individual allegations set forth in this class shall be dismissed with prejudice." End quote. In other words, can't resue. Prejudice means it's done. So, Green Bay Packers, off the hook, love them or hate them. Who knows? And those were your lawsuits of the week. And basically, if any of these companies or organizations or football teams had actually spent money on cybersecurity, I wouldn't be talking about them. They wouldn't be getting sued, and Lord knows they wouldn't be losing their reputation. So take that for what it is. Now, back to real time. Let's talk about LexisNexis Risk Solutions, because they're the data broker giant, and I'm sure you've heard of LexisNexis. They're notifying more than 364,000 people that their personal information was stolen in a December 2024 data breach. This occurred on Christmas Day, December 25th, but LexisNexis learned of it on April 1 of this year, and that ain't no fool. The company said basically in a notification letter that individuals were impacted, and they declared with the state of Maine. Names, dates of birth, phone numbers, email addresses, social security numbers, and driver's license numbers have been caught up in this. So if you use LexisNexis Risk Solutions for what LexisNexis does, heads up to you. Moving on, Adidas, yes, the major German clothing line and shoe line, especially on the soccer field. Anyway, Adidas confirmed that a threat actor obtained company data through a breach of third-party customer service provider. Now, the affected data includes customer contact information who interacted with the Adidas customer service help desk in the past, does not include passwords, does not include credit cards or payment and financial information. Just your contact info, so it's a minor one, but nevertheless. And Adidas, for the record, did not disclose the name of the third-party service provider, so I can't tell you who it is, and it's also unclear who was behind the attack. But either way, if you've gone to Adidas online, you might want to check in. Moving on, I want to give you an update on Nationwide Recovery Services. This has been an ongoing breach, and quite frankly, we are now starting to see a lot of entities, especially in the healthcare field, because this is how this works, basically declare as a result of this debt collector getting hit. And so this past week was University of Chicago Medical Group for 38,000 patients, and then I don't know the patient counts for Harbin Clinic, Northeast Georgia Health System, Rhea Medical Center, Chartered Radiology, Erlanger Western Carolina Hospital, Vitruvian Health, Hamilton Care System and its affiliates, Hamilton Emergency Medical Services, Hamilton Physician Group, Hamilton Medical Center, and finally, Anna Shaw Children's Institute. So, if you are a patient, or I guess have a kid that's a patient at any one of these, Nationwide Recovery Services is probably going to owe you $5.30 at some point as well. Moving on. Cooper Health System. In a notice that they posted on their website, this 3-hospital system in southern New Jersey basically said that on March 26th of this year, they learned that certain personal protected health information was, quote, accessed and acquired, end quote, without permission around May 14th of last year, 2024. We're talking names, dates of birth, social security numbers, health insurance information, treatment info, medical record numbers, and medical history information. So heads up to you, Cooper Health System patients. Moving on, let's head back to Wisconsin, not the Packers this time, but the city of Sheboygan, which actually is a really cool city if you've ever been there. Anywho, thousands of individuals' personal information was impacted by a cybersecurity breach last fall. So this past November, the city initially said that no quote-unquote sensitive data was accessed or posted publicly by an unauthorized third party that breached the city network on Halloween, October 31. Remember, the attackers love it when you're celebrating Christmas or out with the kids getting candy or whatever it is, because nobody's watching the barn. But a comprehensive data review, which followed that internal investigation, basically, they got a third-party expert basically informed the city that on May 14th of this year, 67,947 individuals' personal information was indeed accessed and posted on the dark web site, and that's according to City Administrator Casey Bradley. Names, addresses, dates of birth, social security, and driver's license information was hit. So heads up, all you Sheboyganers, if that's what you call yourselves. Moving on, ConnectWise. They are very big in the IT and MSP or managed service space. Anyway, They are the developer of a remote access support software known as Screen Connect, and they just disclosed that they themselves were the victim of a cyber attack, and they said this was likely perpetrated by a nation-state threat actor. Quote, ConnectWise recently learned of suspicious activity within our environment that we believe was tied to a sophisticated nation-state actor, which affected a very small number of Screen Connect customers, end quote. This is a brief advisory from May 28th of this year. Now, they engaged Google Mandiant to conduct forensic probes of the incident, and this was first reported by CRN. However, it did not reveal the exact number of customers who were impacted by this hack when it happened or the identity of the threat actor behind them. And in a statement shared with Hacker News, ConnectWise did confirm that the malicious activity is linked to the exploitation of a vulnerability that was released, basically discovered and then notified and updated to be patched on April 24th of this year. So, if you're running ConnectWise, I don't care if you're a client of an MSP or an IT company or whatever it is, or maybe you are the IT company, make sure all your endpoints, including your own, are patched, not just your customers. Moving on, let's head over to the city of St. Cloud in scenic Minnesota, another pretty cool city if you've been there. Anyway, they began notifying individuals whose personal information may have been compromised during a cyber attack earlier this year. So letters were mailed out this past week to basically potentially affected individuals after a detailed review of the March 2024 incident. So over a year, guys. Come on, St. Cloud. Anywho, the breach was first detected back in that March when city officials noticed suspicious activity within the network, and they basically determined that individuals accessed the systems between March 17th and March 25th, apparently of last year. So, heads up to you, citizens of St. Cloud. St. Cloudians? I don't know what cities call themselves. I know here in Chicago, we're Chicagoans, or there's Los Angelinos, New Yorkers, but don't know about St. Cloud. Moving on. Let's talk about the lingerie company, Victoria's Secret. Now, they paused online orders while dealing with an apparent cyber attack. And since at least Wednesday, Victoria's Secret website has been replaced with a generic message with no links that says, quote, value customer, we identified and are taking steps to address a security incident. We have taken down our website and some in-store services as a precaution. Our team is working around the clock to fully prepare operations, and we appreciate your patience during this process, end quote. The company's physical stores, for the record, remain open. So heads up to you if you get all your intimate apparel online from Victoria's Secret. Moving on. The city of Abilene, Texas. Now, a ransomware group called Kelian basically claims to have stolen 477 gigabytes from Abilene, Texas. The ransomware gang basically demanded a ransom to be paid on May 27th. Abilene has previously stated, basically publicly, as many cities have, that they're not going to pay this ransom. So, Abilenites? I don't know, whatever. Ooh, it's a city week, apparently, not just healthcare. Moving on. Tiffany & Co., yes, the high-end retailer, they confirmed a data breach affecting customers in South Korea, making this the second such incident involving an LVMH Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton brand after a similar case at their other brand, Dior, another high-end brand. Now, on May 26, Tiffany Korea notified select customers via email of a cybersecurity incident involving unauthorized access to a vendor platform for managing customer data. We're talking names, address, phone numbers, email addresses, internal customer ID numbers, and purchase history. So if you're in South Korea, I'm assuming not North, probably Tiffany's not there, heads up if you shop at Tiffany. Moving on, let's talk about the big accounting firm Deloitte, because a threat actor using an alias 303 allegedly claimed to have breached the company's internal systems and leaked internal data onto a dark web forum. Now, this alleged breach reportedly involves GitHub credentials and source code from internal project repositories belonging to Deloitte's U.S. consulting division. According to reports emerging from cybersecurity monitoring services, the threat actor posted details of the alleged compromise on a well-known dark web forum, claiming to have access and exfiltrated critical development resources. The leaked data allegedly includes GitHub credentials that could potentially grant unauthorized access to Deloitte's internal development infrastructure, as well as source code from proprietary projects. So, obviously, not a good look for Deloitte. Heads up to you if you are using their US-based consulting group, I would assume, in the United States. Moving on. Bradford Health Services, basically, they announced a data security incident that may have compromised the personal and protected health information of certain and current former employees as well as patients. The company, known for its addiction treatment programs and resources, and that really sucks when they get hit too, because oftentimes when you are dealing in recovery with addiction, you are saying oftentimes very sensitive things. It's not good. Anyway, they were they detected a breach on December 8th of 2023, which is a ridiculously long time ago. It's bad enough to go back a year, but a year and a half for this kind of stuff? Come on, Bradford. Come on. Anyway, names, driver's license numbers, dates of birth, medical and health insurance info, financial account details, passport numbers, payment card numbers, social security numbers were all caught up in this. And so hopefully you'll get restitution soon. And hopefully none of like the internal note-taking process or recordings or anything that would be sensitive to a patient about their addiction or their recovery is there. It's not good. I've had friends that have gone through those kinds of things. It's not a fun time. So I hope everybody at Bradford is secure. Moving on. We're going to do our finally. And heads up, 1.8 billion iPhone users. But truthfully, this is honestly about all of us. You might be wondering why this is in Breaches of the Week. I'm about to explain why, because Apple has just warned their almost 2 billion iPhone users to delete one of the major apps immediately. Now, this warning central message is about your privacy and your bank account information as well, and Apple issued the warning in a new video raising serious concerns among Chrome users. That's right, Google Chrome, the web browser. So in this YouTube video, Apple seemed to advise its users to stop using Google's Chrome web browser, citing serious privacy concerns without actually naming the company. And for the record, we know that Google and Apple are massive rivalries. Even back when Steve Jobs was still alive, and basically Google had quasi-promised them not to get into the phone game, and here we are, using Androids more than iPhones on the entire planet, although iPhone has always been a hot product. So, why is Chrome now seen as risky for iPhone users? And I would argue that any version of Chrome that you're running, whether it's a Windows desktop, a Mac, an Android, whatever it is, but we're going to stick with the iPhone realm. So, concerns about the collection of user data, including banking information, have grown since Google reversed its plans to remove third-party tracking cookies. So, besides giving Google a multi-billion-dollar revenue stream, these cookies enable websites and advertisers to monitor Chrome users' online activity in order to display tailored advertisements. In other words, you're going to car sites left and right because you're really into Subarus or Mercedes or Ferrari or whatever. It understands that, and guess who gets Subaru, Mercedes, or Ferrari sales notifications, right? So, Google had previously intended to replace cookies with a new system that would have allowed Chrome users to, quote-unquote, don't track me as an option to select with a single click. Although tracking cookies by themselves are not always harmful, they pose privacy risks and in some situations raise the possibility that your data, including private information like bank records, will be stolen or leaked. We had a whole rash of these with something like 40% or something like that of the top U.S. hospitals are actually integrating Google programming and Facebook programming into their website. So when you went to sign up for an appointment or said, hey, I'm trying to get a colonoscopy or something, whatever it is, then Google and Facebook would know. But the point is that Chrome has done this for years. I have been reporting on Chrome since like the mid 2010s on this kind of stuff, where they've had things like, well, Chrome just randomly turns on the microphone and listens kind of stuff. You should not be using Chrome as it tracks you very heavily. And it's the most popular browser in the world. I mean, other than the fact it's a memory hog, it is nice to use, but you can use Chromium alternatives like Brave, for example, that strip out all the junk, all the trackers, and actually start blocking cookies and all of that. There are other options, Mozilla Firefox, or if you want to get more aggressive, there's one called LibreWolf. That's Libre Wolf. I use basically Brave and LibreWolf. I never use Chrome, even on my Android phone. These are available for iPhone users as well. But quite frankly, this is why this is in Breaches of the Week, because I do believe that in some ways, due to the privacy violations, tracking and all of that, Chrome has been an ongoing data breach essentially since its inception. So take that for what it's worth, but I think it's an important one to understand. And so just take it, the tip from your friendly security fanatic that yes, this is a huge problem. Stop using Chrome. Go get yourself Brave. It feels like Chrome. It acts like Chrome. It doesn't have the junk and trackers that Chrome has. LibreWolf, even more aggressive. So there you go. Those are your breaches of the week. Were you impacted? Well, if you got an iPhone, Yeah, you probably were. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe, stay online, and please, 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 attempt to stay private, secure, and informed. Take care.